The video game industry is raking in insane amounts of money, but unfortunately, that does not mean smooth sailing. Every company has been facing issues, whether it is with product delays or layoffs, but now Bungie is being hit with unexpected undue layoffs, just like many other companies. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube memberships. Now, obviously, we have seen a lot of video game companies announcing layoffs over the past few months, but this one actually came as a bit of a surprise to many people. This is a Forbes article that says while Sony paid $3.7 billion for Bungie, including $1.2 billion for staff retention, the developer has now laid off a number of employees, including some of its most forward-facing team members. This is why it is very surprising to a lot of people, because when Sony bought Bungie, they swore there were not going to be any layoffs, there was not going to be restructuring. As you can see in this post, it says in February 2022, Bungie's leadership team assured the Sony deal would not result in layoffs or restructuring, and now they have these massive waves of layoffs going on, and it actually started last month. When they had announced, they have a lot of new titles in development and major expansions on the horizon. But it's now that we are seeing these numbers actually start to add up, even though, again, they had promised this wasn't going to happen. It says while the totals are not yet known, many Bungie employees have posted that they have been laid off from the company, including a longtime social media lead and two of Destiny's community managers. It says former community manager DMG, who was harassed in real life by a player, resulting in a Bungie lawsuit against the offender, posted on how continued echoes of poor decisions from poor managements led to this moment. But unfortunately, this is not, the only situation that we are hearing like this. I mean, Epic Games recently cut almost 900 jobs in the video game industry's latest mass layoff, and even, Embracer, had faced layoffs. I talked about that a few times because of the Saints Row reboot, but obviously video games are making tons of money. I mean, in 2023, the video game market is projected to reach a revenue of $334 billion, which is pretty massive, but that doesn't mean that it's all rainbows and sunshine, as you can see, since major titles are being released buggy and broken with tons of issues. Now, you'd think the answer to that would be hire more people or better people, but instead they're letting them go and not replacing them. So they're taking in this massive profit and releasing many broken products, and the question becomes, are they letting these people go because they're just not right for the job, because they're unable to complete their work, or because they don't care about releasing broken games, so they're cutting staff so profits are the highest they possibly can be? I mean, obviously we don't know, and won't until companies like Bungie release their next heavy hitters, but even those are now delayed due to layoffs. I mean, Destiny 2 is, pretty consistently having expansions released, but that's really all that Bungie's been doing. They've announced a few games, but they are, nowhere close to releasing, which, again, just kind of makes people question, what are they actually doing here? I mean, it's being reported that the final shape will be delayed from February 2024 to June 2024, so a few months, and Marathon will not even arrive until 2025, when it was initially announced to be releasing at some point in 2024. And you have to think that they were probably really hopeful that this would fly under the radar, that not a lot of people would be talking about this, because there have been so many layoffs going on. I mean, right now the narrative is that studios are doing these massive layoffs, so it's become almost more okay for studios to do the mass layoffs because we can't talk about every single instance. I mean, you can't keep track. It becomes like this pile of mush in your brain where you're like, but I thought they already did layoffs, or oh, maybe it was this other company company that did layoffs. I mean, it does get confusing for an average consumer, and then they just don't end up caring because they're constantly hearing layoffs, layoffs, layoffs. So yeah, I mean, it is, best to do those layoffs now to be lost in the sea of news articles of studios that are doing this. But it all comes back to money, right? Even though they're putting a lot of money into these upcoming games, this keeps wages down. You're hiring new people for less money in highly competitive positions. So tons of people get laid off, and you can hire less people, so your teams will constantly shrink. But there are, major issues with video games that you'd think the solution would be just hiring more people, not getting rid of large amounts of, the teams you have. I mean, massive video game layoffs are definitely going to create ripple effects in the industry. Less staff means larger games are going to take longer to create. We're going to see probably even more delays. But like I mentioned, there are several massive companies going through this right now. I mean, Microsoft/Xbox had went through layoffs. Epic cut almost 900 jobs. Then you have all of the Embracer drama that I've covered quite a few times that, affects Borderlands, Saints Row, even Tomb Raider going forward. This was an article from June, but still very relevant. Embracer owns 138 studios and have over 16,500 people working for them, but it's not clear how many will remain afterwards, and we never got a full count of the people who, got laid off and how many jobs they did cut. But at that point, we had heard they were cutting at least 20%. So, in a year, that might seriously add up. And then we might hear, well, actually, it wasn't 20%, it was 30 or it was 40. I mean, we have no idea at this point, besides the fact that all of these major companies are going through massive sets of layoffs, and they think that it's okay and they think that it's acceptable, and it really isn't. As a consumer, this should be extremely worrying because, again, games are already releasing buggy and broken when they have these massive teams behind them. Never mind when they cut those jobs and they have less people working on games. And yes, they may rehire some of the people that they fired. They may rehire in their position, and those people may be better qualified for the job. But at the same time, we just don't know. Besides, this is already causing major delays for games on top of games already releasing buggy and broken. This just is not good news all around. I will be following the layoffs as closely as I can, and if there are any other situations as large as, Epic or Embracer, Xbox or Bungie, I will be covering them. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.